Right now, China is paying a 104% tariff.
In retaliation for America's tariff strike, China has officially slapped a 34% tariff on all imports from the United States, targeting the very lifeblood of Trump's economic and political strongholds, from soybeans to sorghum to pork, all staples of America's critical farm states. According to Reuters, in 2024 alone, the U.S. exported $15 billion in agricultural goods to China, with over 60% being soybeans, a vital artery for America's rural economy. Now, this artery is being severed. But this isn't just economic punishment, it's strategic warfare. China is striking exactly where it hurts Trump the most: red state farmers who were once his staunchest allies. And the damage? Catastrophic. The U.S. Soybean Export Council warns this could collapse entire supply chains and erase years of hard-won market access. Yet Trump isn't backing down, not even close. He's escalated with a 50% tariff on Chinese imports, pushing the total tariff burden to an eye-watering 104%, the highest in U.S.-China trade history, according to CNBC. This isn't economic brinkmanship. It's a declaration of financial war. And still, China's leadership isn't slamming the door shut. Per Bloomberg, Beijing has signaled interest in a renegotiated deal, potentially echoing Trump's Phase 1 framework. But here's the twist. Washington's demands are now politically unyielding and economically aggressive. From forced tech transfers to state subsidy rollbacks, Trump has pushed the U.S.-China economic conflict to an unprecedented boiling point. With tariffs on Chinese goods surging to a staggering 104%, America is entering its most dangerous trade showdown in modern history. In just one trading session, over $700 billion was wiped off global markets, a collapse reminiscent of the worst days of 2008. China isn't backing down. As Trump escalates tariffs, 10% in February, another 10% in March, then a sudden 34% hike, Beijing has countered with a sweeping 34% tariff on all U.S. goods, but that's only the surface. The real blow? China's stranglehold on rare earth exports. These metals are essential for smartphones, electric vehicles, and defense systems. If this restriction expands, it could paralyze U.S. tech and defense manufacturing, a silent but lethal strike. A $20 toy could soon cost $40. An iPhone? $800. A car? Add $6,000 to $12,000 per vehicle. This is no longer just a trade spat. It's an economic arms race. China is now targeting the lifeblood of modern technology, rare earth materials. These obscure-sounding elements like dysprosium, terbium, and neodymium power everything from electric car batteries to missile guidance systems. Beijing controls as much as 90% of the global supply of rare earths. And now, in what analysts call a disguised export ban, U.S. companies must apply for licenses to access these materials, and approvals are deliberately difficult. This isn't just economic warfare. It's a precision strike at America's technological nerve center. From Apple to Lockheed Martin, the implications are dire. As China tightens its grip, U.S. industries face an imminent supply shock. Semiconductors, night vision systems, and renewable energy infrastructure are all at risk. This is not a future threat. It's already here. Starting this month, the flow of these strategic resources is being restricted. Washington's tariff threats have unleashed a financial tsunami across Asia. The Hang Seng Index plunged more than 13%, its steepest drop in nearly 30 years. The Shanghai Composite Index lost 7% in a single trading session, wiping out more than $500 billion in market capitalization overnight. But the contagion didn't stop in Asia. Wall Street was directly affected. Within days, U.S. markets plunged 10 to 15%, triggering a massive sell-off. Institutional investors have fled to safe havens. Gold and U.S. Treasuries have surged as hedge funds reposition their portfolios at lightning speed. This is no longer stimulus or strategy. This is shock therapy that can kill the patient, a top analyst warned. We are witnessing financial destruction equaling mutual destruction. A dangerous game is underway between two economic superpowers, where every move is a gamble, and the stakes are the global financial system itself. Who blinked first? That's no longer just a question between superpowers. It's a question the entire global economy is now asking, with fear. As the world's two largest imposing economies' tariffs so high they border on a full-scale trade embargo, financial institutions, supply chains, and multinational corporations are caught in the crossfire. This is not diplomacy. It's economic warfare dressed in policy. While Washington claims it's about restoring domestic manufacturing, critics say the real motive is leverage. Economic shock used as a psychological weapon in unrelated negotiations. Meanwhile, Beijing accuses the U.S. of weaponizing tariffs, using them not for trade reform, but for strategic cooperation. The stakes? Global GDP growth is already slowing down. The IMF warns that an extended tariff conflict between the U.S. and China could shave up to 0.8% off global growth in the next 12 months. This isn't just about who blinks first. It's about whether the world can survive if neither side blinks at all. Abuse, violation of global trade rules, a threat to the world economic order. Each side stands firm. But the gap has now become a chasm, so deep that diplomacy may no longer be able to bridge it. Don't look away. This isn't just another impasse. This is the greatest economic inflection point of the 21st century, and it was triggered by a single press conference. That day, as global markets were already shaking, Trump walked into the Oval Office and detonated the equivalent of a financial bomb. His message? "No more deal," he said with a smirk. But the world wasn't laughing. Investors fled. Multinationals froze contracts. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 12% in 36 hours. The issue was no longer tariffs. The problem was trust, and that trust evaporated instantly. First, Trump said the tariffs might be permanent. Then, minutes later, he switched gears and said, "We need to open our borders." Two statements, one podium, a complete ideological reversal. Financial markets froze. Analysts struggled to find coherence. Even cabinet officials looked visibly confused. But then, Trump went further. Without warning, he announced, "The United States will take over the Gaza Strip," and even proposed relocating Palestinians to third countries. This was more than a diplomatic bombshell. It was a direct violation of international law and an immediate geopolitical panic. For global investors, this was no longer just about tariffs or technology. It was now about a U.S. president unilaterally redrawing global boundaries, mid-speech. Trump's comments on Gaza have sparked global outrage, drawing comparisons to historical episodes of forced migration, tragedies that have sparked long-running humanitarian and geopolitical crises. This is more than just a diplomatic scandal. It has dealt a serious blow to the United States' global reputation, raising questions about its moral authority and foreign policy consistency. But instead of addressing the fallout, Trump pivoted, abruptly, to talk about groceries. "We've cut grocery prices. Egg prices are down 79%. He claims that inflation is collapsing, interest rates are easing, and food prices are at levels no one thought possible. Despite Trump's constant rhetoric, the cost of living in the U.S. remains at a historic high, with middle-class households still struggling to afford basic necessities. So why does he keep saying groceries? It's not about inflation. It's about emotional manipulation. Grocery items are a symbol of everyday survival. They're visceral, relatable, and politically powerful. But while Trump is telling that story, the actual prices contradict him. Then there's another false claim. We can't sell cars to Europe. In fact, the U.S. auto industry is thriving in European markets. Major companies like Tesla, Ford, and GM are exporting tens of thousands of vehicles to the EU every year. Plants in Michigan and Texas are running at full capacity. Trump's narrative is not just false, it's strategically misleading, designed to fuel discontent and reinforce feelings of isolation. Trump says tariffs are meant to protect American jobs. But the facts say otherwise. U.S. auto plants are scaling back production. Thousands of workers have been laid off. The fair tariffs that were promised to shore up U.S. industry are now crippling it. The impact didn't take months. It took days. After Trump's press conference, the European Union imposed 25% retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods, putting more strain on U.S. exporters. Major U.S. companies like Apple, Caterpillar, and Boeing are looking to move their supply chains, not back to the United States, but out of harm's way. This isn't just a policy miscalculation, it's an act of economic self-sabotage that hits U.S. workers first and hardest. Trump sells "Made in USA" as a badge of honor, but economics don't lie. If the iPhone were made entirely in the United States, each one could cost as much as $30,000, according to Fortune. That price would destroy consumer demand and destroy the very economy Trump claims to be protecting. As tariffs spiral out of control, companies are fleeing, moving production to India, Vietnam, and Mexico to avoid conflict between the United States and China. Meanwhile, China is playing the long game. While Washington escalates its trade war, Beijing is deepening strategic ties with the EU and emerging economies. The result? A new global trade order, led not by the United States, but by China. America's inward turn is handing its economic influence to a rival it once sought to contain. The global economy no longer revolves around the United States, and Trump's fractious leadership is accelerating that change. As the United States retreats, allies look elsewhere. Emerging powers like China assert leadership in trade, infrastructure, and diplomacy. But instead of recalibrating America's global strategy, Trump has created instability at home and a dangerous regime abroad. Comedian Wanda Sykes has spoken the psychological mineral. Her quip goes deeper than the jokes. It reflects a growing awareness of a leader unfit for the modern world stage. As she puts it, everyone is waiting for the moment when he becomes president. But that moment never comes, because it never will. This is not just comedy. This is a testimony. Global beggar fatigue, the rise of populist narcotics, and the collapse of America's dangerous diplomacy are no longer jokes. They are the consequences of policy. He needs to learn to control his emotions. But he's 70. Comedian Wanda Sykes' line is more than a punchline. It's a pointed critique of a larger systemic failure. An incompetent leader promoted to the highest office without checks, without development, and without consequences. What she's pointing out isn't about age. It's about the president's emotional maturity and lack of discipline. In corporate America, a lack of emotional regulation gets CEOs ousted. But in American politics, it's become normal and even rewarded. The deeper problem? When personal arrogance becomes national posturing, America's credibility on the world stage is eroded. This isn't a joke, it's a warning. A leader who cannot evolve becomes a liability in a world that demands stability. Tiffany Trump was there with the Secret Service. That bothered me. That statement hits a nerve. Not because it's petty, but because it points to a deeper corruption. Public resources being spent to protect private privilege. Why is an apolitical figure like Tiffany Trump getting comprehensive federal protection while working families face budget cuts? Wanda Sykes calls Trump a fake billionaire, and the data backs it up. Multiple bankruptcies, failed projects, and squandering inherited wealth. This isn't business genius, it's brand manipulation. The real problem isn't Trump, It's the system that allows failed elites to turn wealth and fame into political weapons. America's obsession with billionaire optics has blinded it to what it really is: a leadership built on debt, deceit, and self-interest. My kid is so upset. A friend of hers said that now that Trump won, people like us might have to leave. This isn't about emotions. It's about fear rooted in policy. Children absorb political fear because adults give power to a man who runs America like a leveraged buyout. Wanda Sykes isn't just reflecting on a moment, she's diagnosing a national delusion, the blind belief that billionaires can fix democracy. But history shows us that when the extremely wealthy gain power, they protect wealth, not people. Trump's victory signals more than a political shift. It has stoked fear in minority and immigrant communities. Markets may welcome tax cuts, but children hear threats of deportation. And that contrast reveals America's greatest economic myth, that the rich care about anything but the rich. With skin like yours, they'd have to go. Wanda Sykes' satirical attacks on Trump's appearance aren't superficial. They underscore a deeper crisis: an American president whose public image reflects his political deception. In politics, image matters. Leaders must appear authentic to win trust. But Donald Trump's persona, marked by synthetic gestures and contrived presentation, speaks of the exact opposite. As the Financial Times notes, Trump's obsession with branding, golden towers, exaggerated wealth, stylized projection, creates an image that sells power but invites instability. Even the First Lady has become a target, not because of who she is, but because of what she represents: a detached, scripted facade masking a hollow administration. This is no comedy. It is a commentary on the dangers of elevating theater over governance, and the real cost is public disillusionment. She rarely smiles, and when she does, it's like an SOS signal. Wanda Sykes' brutal joke goes deeper than comedy. It exposes the emotional void within the Trump administration. A First Lady who seems distant, absent, and sometimes stuck reflects a White House more concerned with appearance than substance. Public perception matters. According to Reuters, genuine emotional connections between elected officials and citizens are a key element of trust. When leaders appear cold and mechanical, they alienate the very people they are supposed to represent. This emotional detachment is not just personal, it's political. A presidential system that operates behind walls of vanity and engineered distance breeds public skepticism. The sarcastic speculation, "Is he going somewhere to get a facelift?" isn't about plastic surgery. It's about constant reinvention, a strategy that values brand over substance that shapes the entire Trump political stage. When governance becomes image management, what's left is a hollow administration where even a smile is a distress signal. He'll probably do something like a cross between Tom Brady and Ted Nugent. You never know. Wanda Sykes scoffed at the idea of Trump getting plastic surgery. But behind the sarcasm was a sharper truth, a relentless preference for image over management. The joke, "Same hands, same big ass," underscores a deeper critique. You can't mask incompetence with cosmetic changes. According to CNN Business, Trump's administration has always emphasized image over results, with media manipulation often taking precedence over policy implementation. And discipline? That's a joke. Trump's leadership style lacks the structure, consistency, and accountability that the executive office demands. As Bloomberg reported, even former aides have criticized the lack of strategic follow-through on both domestic and foreign initiatives. This isn't about innovation, it's about a systemic failure to confront reality. Sykes' sarcasm is a warning. You can change the face, but if the system underneath is still dysfunctional, the result is the same chaos in a more beautiful frame.